Welcome to Santa Barbara Talks with Josh Molina. It's my pleasure today to be here with James Joyce III, who I've known for a long time. Our paths have crossed here and there, but let's just dive right in, James. You've got a really big announcement. So talk to me. What do you want to tell the people of Santa Barbara who don't know? What's your big plan for 2021?
Well, for me, primarily, it's just I've amassed this set of skills of working in the district for the past 10 years, primarily all through Ventura County and Santa Barbara County, but specifically the past 8 years in Santa Barbara. And I've amassed a set of skills that can be useful for the community as we move forward. And so with that, and been having several community conversations within the community with key players, and I'm gonna put my hat in the ring to run for mayor. It's a thing that a year ago you asked me, would I ever run for office, and the answer definitely would have been no. But seeing where we are as a society, where we've progressed in the society in the past year, and knowing the skill set that I have. Putting those dots together, I think it could be something that could be useful to move the community forward.
Okay, that's great. So talk to me, James, about why you. So Cathy Murillo, she's the first Latina ever elected to the Santa Barbara City Council. She has a base of progressives, Democrats who have supported her. I'm sure you supported her in the past, probably to some degree. Why do we need to dump Cathy for something new, and specifically why you?
Right. Well, I think, as I mentioned, this area has kind of been riddled and plagued with some disasters, some tough times over the past several years. And, that's no fault of anybody in government at that point. But, you look for inspirational leadership to stand up to the time. And, that has not been the case with Cathy. I mean, she's, again, a nice woman. When she came around campaigning and knocked on my door, I introduced her to my neighbors. This is our mayoral candidate. And I had great hopes. And, I'm not alone with that. There's been a lot of disappointment in her tenure as mayor. She's had time to be able to show, great visionary leadership, and help point the city toward the direction that we all need to go towards, but that just hasn't happened. And so again, I've amassed a skill set that for the past 8 years I've been working in the political backside, but in the past 4 years specifically, just facilitating difficult community conversations about race, that has highlighted a skill that for most people, having conversations about race is a little bit more difficult than having conversations about the budget, right? But they're both difficult conversations, and I think there's a lot of transferable skills in being able to facilitate difficult conversations and get folks from all sides of the argument to at least sit down, discuss where they're coming from, and figure out a plan forward from that.
Obviously 2020 was a tumultuous year. It was a terrible year for a lot of reasons. In Santa Barbara, what are the issues that relate to race and the issues that came up on a national level that you want to focus on? You have these conversations with people every day. So talk to me about Santa Barbara, what Santa Barbara's needs and issues are.
Right. Well, I mean, Santa Barbara being a largely, predominantly white community, the second largest population, of course, being Latino. And there's just kind of this bubble feel here in Santa Barbara. And so all these things are happening nationally. And sometimes folks feel as if we are in a bubble in Santa Barbara. That's not us. The reality of it is that is America. Santa Barbara is in America. And so therefore that is us. And so there are things that we can do to kind of move through this. And a lot of folks come to me and like, okay, one of the questions post George Floyd I heard quite frequently is, we're white women and living in Santa Barbara. What can we do in this moment? And realistically, it's about having this mass racial reckoning inform your decision and allow that to inform your decisions moving forward. So you have that new knowledge. So now that you know better, do better. And so that I think translates over to this as well. We see the universality of the Black American experience. We see how that can be learned from, and that can be the root for a lot of development, as most recent in the last U.S. Senate runoff in Georgia. We see how Black Americans step up and answer to the call. And so what can we in Santa Barbara do to help that? Well, Santa Barbara is a great petri dish, right? The whole conversation is about anti-racist. What does an anti-racist community look like? Well, I think we can start to create a mold or a blueprint for what that may look like. And it's just incremental steps. And it is not always talking about the elephant of race. It's about having that inform how you're thinking about things, whether that's how you're allocating funds within a city budget, whether that is, how you're thinking about addressing the issue on housing and understanding the historical and systematic challenges that housing policies and such have had on disenfranchised people. And so all of that informing, providing, icing on top of the cake for my political and journalistic background, bringing into running for a position like mayor.
And I don't want to make it too much about race, but
right.
Can you just address the issue head on? That majority of Santa Barbara, the largest minority population in Santa Barbara are Latinos, and Cathy Murillo is the Latina mayor. So I guess the question is, like, what can you provide that Cathy Murillo cannot, in terms of her ability to connect with maybe some of these East Side, West Side communities? Can you just outline that? What can you deliver to some of these communities who might identify more with her?
Yeah, I'm genuine, right? I've been in the communities, I've been in people's houses, not COVID, of course, but, have had those relationships with folks. And when you work with those folks, I used to work for cause, right? Yeah. And so I've got some connections with that. I have some understanding, but I don't want to be disparaging to others, but there's when I've had this ability to connect with people, regardless of race, regardless of background, and being able to find the common ties with folks. If I'm going to a picnic and I see, somebody with the first, one of the first things that was new cultural experience to me, and having that cultural acuity is, seeing people cutting up nopales, right? And eating that. And I'm like, that was just, it was new to me. I grew up on the East Coast, right? And to be able to, learn that from a very safe spot and understand, okay, well, that's why I see some of these cactuses growing on the side of the road or in different places, understanding the cultural connection to these things. Cathy has been steeped into that. But, a lot of people who know Cathy from, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago before she got into public service know her as Cathy Murillo.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So enough said there. So, hey, let's talk a little about the politics of this, James. You are, you've been so involved with the Democratic Party for so long. You worked for Dos Williams as, many titles, State Senator Hannibal Jackson, many titles. You've been doing so much work for such a long time, and the Democratic Party people are all your associates. You know them. Do you feel as though that's going to be an issue here? They're going to have to decide between their incumbent mayor, who they've endorsed. How important is it to you to get them to back your mayoral campaign?
It's important, but it's not vital, right? I understand how the game is played. The democratically endorsed candidate has been Cathy. I understand that the local party has an interview process for their endorsements, and I will pursue that interview process and seek the endorsement. But ultimately, it's going to be up to their decision. And I have confidence that you put me, in a room with any of the other candidates, and I can hold my own, if not thrive, right? And so that's just me being who I am. And so when people in the party locally who may have had some interaction with me, but not a lot, well, once they get to ask those questions and really get to know who I am, I think they'll be able to make a logical decision from that. I've been in the trenches with Darcel, with Hillary, all of them, right? We all were on the same staff. it's no hard feelings. I understand what it is. That machine has to operate as a machine. I would love to have that machine operating with me, but if not, I do understand. And I think that it would be mutually advantageous because what I've seen is, as I've been having conversations with folks about the possibility of my mayoral campaign, there's an excitement, a real genuine excitement that I have not seen around here in the 10 years that I've done work, right? And so I think that there's something about that that could be beneficial to the party. Yes, there's been some, minor fractions within the party. I would hope that, those are in the past and we can continue to move forward with, the current situation. But it is what it is. I don't like to overuse that statement, but I know what the local party is, and I understand what their value is. And I also, they're not the whole city.
Yeah, yeah. Well, definitely, there's got to be a lot of excitement around you getting into the campaign. Babatunde Folayemi was the first African-American member of the council, right? You would be the second. You'd be obviously the first mayor. We have a string of female mayors. So there's so much newness around the idea of you running. And there's this whole thing of fresh conversations, new perspective, new conversations that you definitely bring to the table. So let's talk about what you've been doing. Okay. Before everybody in 2020 was talking very deeply about race and race relations, you were doing Coffee with a Black Guy before that. So can we talk a little bit about the important work that you've been doing long before you were thinking about running for mayor?
Sure. And my team here has been encouraging me to get better about patting myself on the back, but I'm gonna make that effort. I think what the whole platform of Coffee with the Black Guy and being the fact that I started it in July of 2016, that's just indicative of visionary leadership, right? I saw that there was a need for people to have these conversations, and I was essentially having those conversations anyway. I created the platform to help me with time management, right? Instead of calling everybody back, everybody come, let's have that conversation there. Just a little bit of time management, but it's been a teachable moment, right? When having these kind of conversations, it's authentic community building. Neighbors who've lived next to one another for years, if not decades, are finally talking to one another about issues that matter. Oh, not about the weather, not about the Dodgers, but about like real issues that help us move forward as a community and society. And I think that the conversation, like that, is the beginning of all solutions, right? And so we can do it for race issues, and in those conversations, a lot of times those race issues parallel with policy issues or having policy-like conversations. And I'm able to do that as well. But I just think it's the best indicator of what I'm going to do in the future is what I've done in the past. I've executed visionary leadership in the past multiple times. That's what you can expect for me to do in the future.
Can you talk a little bit about your background? I know that you were a journalist for a while. Talk a little about what you did before you came to Santa Barbara.
Sure. I'm originally a Maryland native. So born right outside of the Baltimore area, Baltimore metro area. Once I graduated high school, I went to school at Ohio University in Southeast Ohio. That's in Athens. The Bobcats, not the Buckeyes. And so after that, I got a journalism degree there. And while I was in college, actually, I made my first trip to Santa Barbara, and that was in November of 2001. I had an internship at the Ventura County Star, and so I stayed some time out here in the area working for the Star, and definitely made a trip to Santa Barbara. Since then, I've just been reporting, right? I was an education reporter for most of my time, hopping from various cities like Marion, Indiana, Yakima, Washington, Toledo, Ohio, and then ended up out in California, transitioned over into public service when I took a friend's advice and dialed a number to a friend of hers who was running for state assembly and needed help with his campaign. And that's kind of how I got looped into this side of things, having covered it and now kind of being behind what's covered. I think, I mean, for me, that's just kind of rounded out my perspective of the usefulness of both the media and the government entities. I mean, they're both have equal importance.
And can you talk about some of the discrimination that you've overcome, either coming up, being raised, or even in the important work you do, in the legislature in California? Obviously, there's probably some doors that you had to knock on several times before they had to open. Can you talk about your work as an African American man and how that has impacted how you see the world professionally?
Yeah, I mean, being the fact that I've always been one of a very few Black men in an area, I understand what I've always represented something other than myself. As a young kid, as a Black male, you're always representing the race, you're always representing your family, and that's a heavy weight. But that's a weight that I felt at 5 years old, right? And so learning how to feel the weight of, okay, if I act out in class, that's a judgment on other people that look like me. It's not fair. That's not how it should be, but that's the reality of how things have been. And so, when you're looking to, okay, so there's a city, there's folks in the city, they say, okay, so how can I be represented? Well, I've always represented something other than myself. I worked for Das Williams. When you're out in the community, I represented him. Working for Hannah Beth Jackson, out in the community, people see me as an extension of the work that she's doing. And so I'm representing her. And so it's nothing new to me to have the representation of others on my shoulder. I just would hope to be able to have a little, in addition to the weight on my shoulders, a little bit of wind in my back from their accountability, involvement, engagement. We need to do a better job of that right now. Just pointing out one thing, you see that, the city of Santa Barbara doesn't have a public information officer. Now, traditionally, a role like that is to interface with the media, but understanding what the media market is in Santa Barbara, you need a public information officer to be able to share information with the public, right? And so there's a lot of citizen journalists, people who pay attention. I mean, Santa Barbara is a very engaged community. And so there should be a better conduit of directly communicating with the community from city government. And I mean, that's just one indicator of something that could help improve the way that Santa Barbara shines.
So yeah, that's a great transition. So some of the issues, obviously, downtown redevelopment. We're dealing with the pandemic. We've closed State Street. The businesses were struggling. We got the government shutdowns. It's really complicated. It's really sad for a lot of these businesses. What can you do here? A lot of this is out of, the city of Santa Barbara, the mayor's control. But if you come in, how do we bridge the gap between business and government? And what can you do to sort of boost them at this time?
Yeah, Josh, that's an age-old question, because we've been trying to answer that. And in my work with Hannah Beth, have been involved working with, the small business community locally. She had a project called Jobs and Economic Development Initiative. We called it JEDI. And it was working with small business owners, innovators, venture capitalists, education institutions in the area, and really getting folks, not just in Santa Barbara, but throughout the whole region, to stop working in silos and working collectively. So we've seen some success with that, like organizations like Weave. They work throughout the whole area, but they're a great benefit to help businesses. Throughout COVID, they were there to help, in addition to the SBA, to be able to help businesses navigate the loan process and navigate the ever-changing field of what operating looks like. That all came from sitting shoulder to shoulder with these individuals, talking through and figuring out how to do things. Now, the challenge that I have is, where we see, State Street right now during COVID is pedestrian. We were talking about that maybe 7 years ago as we were planning and thinking and figuring out what we can do to help bolster growth on State Street. The unfortunate reality is it took a global pandemic for us to get to that thing that we had just been talking about. And I think that is a challenge, right? We talk about a lot, we study a lot. We've had a State Street charrette, and these things don't fully get implemented. They're talked about, but we need to have some sort of political will, accountability and vision from the community equally to move these things forward and really, not have to wait on tragedy to hit to be innovative. We've got a lot of great innovators here in town. I was part of, as an advisory member to the Impact Hub as that started getting started up. And we were talking and looking at other communities like Boulder, Colorado, and what were they doing to kind of create a more entrepreneurial environment. And so understanding that there's value in looking outside of our bubble and seeing what other things could work in Santa Barbara, what other things could we borrow from elements of to make Santa Barbara truly what it is. It's got all the great elements. Of all the places I've lived in my adult life, I don't want to go anywhere here. I don't want to go on vacation because we're in vacation. And so, I feel invested in this community. And I feel like it's just right on the verge of being something great. And when you talk about okay, so how can we attract business back to State Street? Well, I think with the excitement of my candidacy, some of the work that I've done, and some of the networks and connections that I have, that helps elevate Santa Barbara on a larger scale, right? So later this week, I'm doing a keynote speech in Yakima, Washington. Well, I know people in Yakima who are now thinking about coming to Santa Barbara to visit for vacation because, dang, it looks so nice there, right? They had never considered that. And so understanding that there's value in connections outside of our area to make our area even better.
And if you're elected, how does this impact your Coffee with a Black Guy efforts and your outreach? Because obviously you're talking to people all over. This is not a local thing. And then you become mayor. How do you reconcile those two things?
So I've done the research on what the paying salary is for mayor, and it's unsustainable for living in Santa Barbara. The way that rents continue to go up, and based on what I'm currently paying in rent, that is unsustainable. Yeah. And so Coffee with the Black Guy LLC will continue on. We continue to do diversity and inclusion consulting, working with companies, nonprofits, school districts, communities to facilitate conversations. And throughout COVID, I've gotten much better at my own scheduling because I used to cut hair in college, and so the way I did that is I had a hard planner that that would schedule people's appointments in, and so when COVID hit the fan, things got crazy and hectic, kind of juggling this and Hannah Beth work and other calls from the community. I went back to that, and so that's been helping me train myself to get back into be better at my own scheduling and say, okay, so we know what the demands of the mayor are. There's definitely like Tuesdays I can't work for Coffee with the Black Guy, but while other things are happening, I'm able to I envision that I'll be able to balance the work.
Okay, so we'll wrap up here in a second, but looking at the landscape of the race, obviously you got Mayor Cathy Murillo, who's going to run hard. She's going to try to get the Democratic Party endorsement again and sort of try to do a repeat of how she got elected. You got Deborah Schwartz, who's running, and she's pulling hard with the business community, the developer community. She's got some name recognition. She's been on the planning commission, and she's going to hit home over time. Like, I've been here consistently dealing with planning issues for 11 years. And she's ready to make a change at City Hall. So you kind of have those angles. There's rumors of other people getting in. Just take the last couple minutes here, James, to talk about why you're different than everyone else and why they should look at you as somebody who's going to bring the kind of change Santa Barbara needs to Santa Barbara, the kind of change people want.
Sure. I've worked alongside, both Cathy and Deborah. I've seen her work on the Planning Commission, and, she's done great work. I mean, I have no negative or disparaging comments about her contributions to the community. But planning is only one element of being mayor. A lot of what being mayor is being the fact that we have a strong city administrator type of model for the city. A lot of, how I classify what the mayor is the chief cheerleader for the city, right? Have no more power than the other council members, but you can inspire, you can help collaboration, create collaboration, right? And I think that is what the city is looking for. They're looking for somebody to help pull all the pieces together and get the ship heading in the right direction. So how am I different? I think aside from just the reality that I'm a Black man running in a predominantly white and Latino city, and the perspective that brings with it, although I'm still not a journalist, I think my mind still works journalistically. That's my training. That's how, that's the basis for how I've interacted with the world. The curiosity, asking questions to find out the answer. As a newspaper reporter, a daily newspaper reporter, every day you've got to recreate your core product. So in the morning you go out, you're given or create a story idea that I may or may not know anything about. I have to go get smart on it, ask all the right questions, do all the right research. By the end of the day, synthesize all that, write it in an 8th grade reading level, and have no mistakes. That's not an easy task. However, that's something that it's kind of like a training camp for to be able to do that on a larger level. And instead of just regurgitating and telling the story, thinking about innovative ways to offer solutions, or recommend that 2 people talk to one another and they come up with the solution. Sometimes it's as simple as that.
Are you saying, James, journalists should run the world? Is that what I hear you saying?
Well, realistically, if you look at it, David Axelrod started as a journalist. There's a lot of folks who have that base and foundation, and I think that provides a lot of a good way of looking at the world. It's the 4th estate, right? Yeah. So essentially, it is a functioning part of our democracy, and it's vital.
Yeah, nothing teaches critical thinking like having to come up with a story every day and do it quickly and on deadline. But James, my pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to you. You're definitely going to infuse an incredible amount of energy and excitement into the mayoral race. And I know that, this shakes it up. Everyone's going to be sort of talking about, holy cow, what does this mean? So it's going to be an exciting year for reporters to cover that, and observers. So I appreciate your time, and, good luck, and I'll see you out there on the campaign.
What a way to kick off Black History Month. Happy Black History Month.
All right, James, good luck. Take care.
Great. Thanks.